What if I told you that the life you want is probably much closer than you think? Most people imagine success as something distant, something reserved for people with perfect genetics, perfect opportunities, or some special hidden talent that normal people simply do not have. They look at successful athletes, creators, entrepreneurs, musicians, speakers, and disciplined individuals and assume those people were born different. They assume greatness belongs to a different category of humans. But what if that belief is completely wrong? What if the real difference between ordinary and extraordinary people is not talent, but accumulated focused hours? Think about it carefully. 5,000 hours sounds massive when you hear it for the first time. Your brain immediately reacts emotionally. It sounds impossible. It sounds exhausting. But once you break it down, something interesting happens. If you work on a skill for 4 focused hours a day, you reach 5,000 hours in around 3.5 years. 3.5 years. That means a person could completely transform their body, communication skills, career, mindset, income, confidence, or entire identity in less time than most people spend unconsciously scrolling through social media, switching goals every month, and restarting their lives every Monday. And that realization changes everything. Because suddenly, success stops looking magical. It starts looking mathematical. The truth is that most people are not failing because they lack intelligence. Most people are failing because they never stay focused on one thing long enough for the compound effect to appear. They quit during the invisible stage. They stop during the boring phase. They restart before the rewards arrive. And modern life makes this even worse. Today, distraction is everywhere. Your attention is constantly being attacked. Every app wants your focus. Every notification wants your energy. Every short-form video is competing to control your mind for a few extra seconds. And slowly, without realizing it, people are losing the ability to stay with difficult things. That is why this video matters. Because in this video, we are going to talk about why 5,000 focused hours may be enough to completely change your future. We are going to explore why consistency quietly defeats talent, how your brain physically rewires itself through repetition, why modern distraction is destroying deep focus, why most people quit too early, and why the compound effect is one of the most powerful forces in human life. But this time, we are not only talking about theory. We are talking about real life, real students, real creators, real gym beginners, real people struggling silently. Because chances are, somewhere inside this video, you are going to see yourself. And trust me, by the end of this video, you will never look at your daily hours the same way again. Chapter 1. The biggest lie people believe. One of the biggest lies people believe is that success happens suddenly. We constantly see the final stage of people's journeys, but almost never the beginning. We see the successful YouTuber with millions of subscribers, the athlete lifting trophies, the entrepreneur making millions, the confident speaker commanding a stage, the musician performing effortlessly, the fit person with incredible discipline. And because we only see the visible result, our brain creates a false story. They got lucky. They were naturally gifted. They had advantages. They were born different. But what we never see are the invisible years behind the scenes. The years where nobody cared, the years where they practiced quietly, the years where they failed repeatedly, the nights filled with self-doubt, the mornings where motivation disappeared, the boring repetitions nobody applauds. That is the hidden reality behind almost every successful person. Success only looks instant from the outside. In reality, greatness is usually built slowly, invisibly, and painfully. The confident speaker you admire once struggled to say basic sentences with anxiety. The skilled editor you look up to once made terrible videos nobody watched. The fit person who now inspires others once felt exhausted after a simple workout. Nobody begins powerful. People become powerful through repetition. Imagine a teenager starting a YouTube channel. The first video gets 14 views. 8 of those views are from family members. The audio is terrible. The editing is awkward. The confidence is low. After uploading for 3 months, nothing changes. Most people quit there. But imagine that same person continues uploading for 3 years. Now they speak confidently on camera. They edit naturally. They understand storytelling. They know thumbnails. They understand audience psychology. People now call them talented, but what they are actually seeing is accumulated hours. Another example, imagine a skinny gym beginner walking into a gym for the first time. He feels uncomfortable. Everybody looks stronger. He barely understands the machines. After 10 push-ups, his arms shake. 3 months later, his body still looks mostly the same. This is where many people quit emotionally. But the person who survives this phase for years becomes unrecognizable. Not because of motivation, but because repetition slowly transformed them. That is why the idea of 5,000 hours is so important, because it shifts your perspective away from motivation and towards accumulated effort. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 month and underestimate what they can achieve in 5 years. And because they focus only on short-term results, they quit before long-term transformation appears. Real growth is often invisible in the beginning. A tree does not become giant overnight. First, the roots grow underground where nobody can see them. And human growth works the same way. The scary thing is that many people destroy their own future because they mistake invisible progress for failure. Chapter 2. Your brain is always rebuilding itself. Most people think their abilities are fixed. They think intelligence is fixed, confidence is fixed, focus is fixed, communication is fixed. But neuroscience shows something completely different. Your brain is constantly changing based on repeated behavior. This process is called neuroplasticity. Every repeated action strengthens certain neural pathways inside your brain. The more frequently you repeat a skill, the more efficient those pathways become. In simple words, your brain adapts to whatever you repeatedly do. If you repeatedly distract yourself, your brain becomes better at distraction. If you repeatedly focus deeply, your brain becomes better at focus. If you repeatedly practice speaking English, your brain slowly builds stronger language pathways. If you repeatedly avoid difficult situations, your brain strengthens fear. This is why habits become powerful, because repeated behavior literally changes your brain structure over time. Think about driving for the first time. At first, every action feels difficult. You have to consciously think about steering, braking, mirrors, speed, and coordination all at once. But after enough repetition, driving becomes automatic. The skill moved from conscious struggle into subconscious efficiency. The same thing happens with every skill in life. Speaking confidently, editing videos, coding, public speaking, learning music, building discipline. At first, the brain resists. Then slowly, the brain adapts. Imagine someone trying to wake up early. The first week feels painful. The alarm feels violent. The body feels heavy. The mind keeps negotiating. Just 5 more minutes. But after enough repetition, waking up early becomes easier because the brain adapts to the repeated pattern. Now imagine the opposite. A person spends 6 hours daily scrolling short-form videos. Every 30 seconds, the brain receives a new stimulation. New joke, new song, new face, new dopamine hit. Slowly, the brain becomes uncomfortable with slowness. Now reading a book feels boring. Studying feels painful. Deep work feels impossible. The brain was trained for stimulation, not focus. That is why your daily actions matter more than most people realize. You are not just using your brain, you are shaping it. This is why experts often appear naturally talented. In reality, they simply spent thousands of hours strengthening specific neural circuits. And this is extremely important to understand. Because once you realize your brain physically changes through repetition, you stop seeing yourself as permanently limited. You stop saying, "I'm just bad at this." And instead, you begin asking, how many focused repetitions have I actually done? That question changes everything, because suddenly failure stops feeling permanent. It becomes temporary training. Chapter 3. The Valley Where Most People Quit. There is a dangerous stage in every long-term journey, a stage where effort feels massive but visible results feel tiny. This is where most people quit. The gym beginner quits here. The student quits here.
The creator quits here. The entrepreneur quits here. Why? Because humans naturally expect linear rewards. We believe that if we work hard for 1 month, we should already see dramatic results. But real growth almost never works that way. Real growth is exponential. For a long time, it looks like nothing is happening. Then suddenly, everything changes at once. And that invisible waiting period destroys most people emotionally. Imagine planting a seed underground. For weeks, you see absolutely nothing above the surface. If you judged progress only by what you could immediately see, you would assume nothing is happening. But underground, the roots are expanding quietly. Human growth follows the exact same pattern. A student learning English may feel embarrassed while speaking. People laugh at pronunciation mistakes. Sentences come out broken. Confidence collapses. So they stop practicing. But another student continues anyway. They watch English videos daily. They speak imperfectly. They make hundreds of mistakes. After 2 years, the difference becomes massive. One person stayed embarrassed. The other person became fluent. The difference was not intelligence. It was survival during the uncomfortable phase. Another relatable example. Imagine a person trying to lose weight. Week 1, they feel motivated. Week 2, they still feel excited. Week 3, the excitement disappears. The mirror still looks similar. The body still feels average. Cravings become stronger. This is where most people emotionally collapse. Because the effort feels real, but the reward feels invisible. But if that same person survives 6 months, people suddenly start saying, "Wow, what changed?" The visible transformation appears late, but the invisible preparation happened first. The problem is that modern culture trains people to expect instant gratification. Everything today is fast. Fast entertainment, fast delivery, fast dopamine, fast stimulation. But mastery is slow. And because people are emotionally impatient, they abandon the process before the rewards become visible. This is why consistency is so rare. Not because it is impossible, but because emotionally surviving the invisible stage is difficult. The hardest part of success is not starting. It is continuing when nothing exciting is happening. Chapter 4. Modern distraction is destroying focus. Right now, thousands of companies are fighting for your attention. Your attention has become one of the most valuable resources in the world. Social media platforms are designed using behavioral psychology to maximize engagement. Notifications are engineered to interrupt your focus. Short-form videos train your brain to constantly seek novelty and stimulation. And slowly, people are losing the ability to sit alone with difficult work. This is one of the biggest hidden crises of modern life. People struggle to read deeply, study patiently, practice consistently, work without interruptions, or even sit quietly with their own thoughts, because the brain becomes addicted to stimulation. And the scary part is that most people do not even realize this transformation is happening. Imagine a student sitting to study for an exam. Within 3 minutes, phone notification. Then suddenly, Instagram. Then one reel. Then another reel. Then YouTube recommendation. Suddenly 1 hour disappears. And at night, the student says, "I don't know why I can't focus." But focus was never trained. Distraction was trained. Another relatable example. Imagine 2 people trying to learn video editing.
Keeps switching between editing and social media every 5 minutes, puts the phone away and practices deeply for 3 uninterrupted hours. After 6 months, the gap becomes unbelievable, because deep focus multiplies learning speed. The modern world rewards distraction financially, but success still rewards focus. That creates an enormous opportunity for anyone willing to protect their attention, because in a distracted world, focused people become extremely powerful. The person who can spend 3 uninterrupted hours learning a difficult skill already possesses an advantage over millions of people. Focus is becoming a superpower, and every distraction quietly steals hours from your future self. Imagine someone spending 4 hours daily scrolling. That becomes 28 hours weekly, 112 hours monthly, over 1,300 hours yearly. That means in less than 4 years, a person can either build mastery or lose over 5,000 hours to unconscious distraction. That is terrifying, because many people are not intentionally ruining their future. They are simply leaking their lives away 1 distracted hour at a time. Most people think success is mainly about intelligence, but increasingly, success is becoming about attention control. The ability to focus deeply for long periods may become one of the most valuable skills of the future. Chapter 5. Why talent is overrated. People love the idea of talent because it removes responsibility. If success belongs only to gifted people, then failure feels easier to justify. But research on deliberate practice shows something extremely important. Focused practice over long periods often matters more than natural talent.
Talent may help someone begin faster, but consistency usually determines who wins the long race, because talent without discipline eventually collapses, and average ability combined with relentless repetition becomes extremely dangerous. There are naturally talented people who quit after 6 months. There are ordinary people who quietly practiced for 5 years, and over time, the consistent person often surpasses the talented one. Imagine 2 classmates. One student understands math quickly, but never studies consistently. The other struggles badly in the beginning, but practices daily. At first, the talented student dominates, but after years, the disciplined student often surpasses them because repetition compounds. Another example, imagine 2 creators starting YouTube. Creator 1, naturally charismatic, funny, confident. Creator 2, awkward, camera shy, average editing. But Creator 1 uploads inconsistently. Creator 2 uploads every week for 4 years. Who usually wins? The consistent creator, because consistency improves skill automatically. Each upload teaches storytelling, editing, communication, retention, audience psychology, and eventually the awkward beginner becomes powerful through accumulated repetitions. This is why discipline becomes more powerful than motivation. Motivation is emotional, discipline is structural. Motivation disappears constantly, but systems survive emotional fluctuations. Imagine someone waiting to feel motivated before going to the gym. They skip workouts whenever emotions change. Now imagine another person who simply goes every day at 6 p.m. no matter how they feel. One person depends on emotion, the other depends on structure, and structure almost always wins long term. The people who eventually become exceptional are usually not the most excited people. They are the people who continued despite boredom, frustration, low motivation, and slow progress. And from the outside, that consistency eventually looks like talent. Chapter 6: The Compound Effect of Small Days. Most people underestimate how powerful small daily actions become over time, because daily progress feels invisible. A single workout does not transform your body. A single study session does not make you intelligent. A single video does not build a channel. But repeated consistently for years, those small actions become life-changing. This is the compound effect. Tiny repeated behaviors create massive long-term outcomes. Imagine 2 friends. One reads 10 pages daily. The other says, "I'll start later when life becomes less busy." After 1 year, the first person has read multiple books. Their thinking improves, vocabulary improves, knowledge improves. After 5 years, the gap becomes enormous. One person evolved mentally, the other remained mentally stagnant, and the difference came from small repeated actions. Another relatable example, imagine saving money. A person saves a small amount consistently every month. Another person spends impulsively because the amount feels too small to matter. Years later, one person has financial stability, the other has stress. Small actions feel weak daily, but powerful yearly. Imagine someone learning guitar. Daily practice, 20 minutes. That feels tiny, but after 100 days, 200 days, 500 days, 1,000 days, those minutes become skill. This is how mastery quietly forms, not through giant dramatic moments, but through ordinary repeated days. Imagine a creator uploading videos weekly. Week 1, 30 views. Week 20, still low views. Week 60, one video suddenly performs better. Week 100, the channel finally grows. From the outside, people say, they blew up overnight. But they are ignoring the hundreds of invisible uploads behind the breakthrough. The problem is not that small actions are weak. The problem is that humans are impatient. People want mountain-level rewards from seed-level effort.
But life rarely works that way. Chapter 7: The Identity Shift. One of the most powerful transformations during the 5,000-hour journey is identity change. At first, practice feels forced. You rely on motivation. You negotiate with yourself. You struggle emotionally. But after enough repetitions, something changes internally. You stop saying, "I'm trying to become disciplined," and begin saying, "I am disciplined." You stop saying, "I'm trying to become a creator," and begin saying, "I am a creator." This shift matters because human beings naturally act in alignment with identity. A person who identifies as healthy behaves differently from someone who merely wants to become healthy. A person who identifies as focused protects their attention differently. A person who identifies as disciplined makes different decisions when nobody is watching. Imagine someone trying to wake up early. At first, it feels painful because their identity still belongs to the lazy version of themselves. But after months of repetition, waking early becomes normal. Now, sleeping late feels uncomfortable. Why? Because identity changed. Another example. Imagine someone terrified of public speaking. The first presentation feels horrible. Hand shaking, voice cracking, heart racing. But after years of presentations, meetings, conversations, and speaking practice, something changes. They no longer feel like a shy person trying to speak. They become someone who speaks confidently. That identity shift changes behavior automatically. The deepest transformation is psychological. The skill changes your identity while you are building it. And eventually, consistency stops feeling like punishment. It starts feeling natural. That is why long-term consistency changes more than results. It changes self-perception. And once self-perception changes, your entire life begins changing with it. Chapter 8. Why most people never reach 5,000 hours. The truth is that most people never even reach 500 focused hours in a single skill. Not because they are incapable, but because they constantly restart. They change goals every month. They quit during emotionally difficult periods. They compare themselves to advanced people too early. They chase shortcuts instead of systems. Modern culture glorifies instant success, but mastery demands patience. Imagine someone deciding to learn coding. Week 1, motivated. Week 2, still excited. Week 3, confused by errors. Week 4, watches a video titled Top 10 Skills to Learn in 2026. Suddenly, they abandon coding and start graphic design. A month later, they switch again. Then dropshipping. Then trading. Then content creation. Years pass. Nothing compounds. Because consistency never lasted long enough. Another relatable example. Imagine planting 10 seeds and digging them up every week to check progress. None of them grow. That is exactly how many people treat their goals. They never stay long enough for roots to develop. The people who eventually become exceptional are usually not obsessed with speed. They become obsessed with consistency. And that difference changes everything. Most people dramatically underestimate the power of staying with one thing long enough. They constantly interrupt their own compound effect. Every time they restart, they reset momentum. And over time, this becomes devastating. The greatest advantage is often not intensity. It is continuity. The ability to continue long after excitement disappears. Because excitement starts journeys, but consistency finishes them. Chapter 9. What 5,000 hours really gives you. 5,000 hours does not only build skill. It builds character. Every difficult repetition strengthens emotional endurance. Every focus session strengthens attention control. Every moment you continue despite boredom increases mental resilience. And slowly, you become someone different. You become more patient, more disciplined, more emotionally stable, more confident, more focused, more capable of handling discomfort. That is the hidden reward behind mastery. Imagine someone who spent years training consistently. Now, difficult things no longer scare them. Why? Because repetition built proof. Proof changes confidence. Confidence is not built from motivational quotes. Confidence is built from evidence. Evidence that you can survive difficulty repeatedly. Another example. Imagine a creator who uploaded videos for 4 years. Now, criticism no longer destroys them emotionally. Why? Because they became mentally stronger through repetition. The external success matters, but the internal transformation matters even more. Because by the time someone reaches 5,000 focused hours, they are no longer the same person who started.
And one day, people will look at them and say, "You're talented," without realizing they are actually looking at accumulated years of invisible effort.
Chapter 10. The most important decision of your life. Every single day, your future is being shaped quietly. Not dramatically, quietly. The scary thing about life is that small daily decisions often feel harmless. Skipping one workout feels harmless. Scrolling for 1 extra hour feels harmless. Avoiding practice today feels harmless. But repeated daily, small decisions become identity, and identity becomes destiny. Imagine 2 versions of yourself. Version 1 keeps delaying effort, keeps choosing distraction, keeps restarting goals, keeps waiting for motivation. Version 2 protects focus, shows up daily, accepts boredom, continues despite slow progress. At first, both lives look similar, but after 5 years, the difference becomes shocking. One person becomes stronger, calmer, more skilled, more confident, more financially stable, more disciplined. The other remains stuck in cycles of frustration and distraction. And the painful part is that both futures were built from ordinary days. This is why your daily hours matter so much, because your future self is being built right now. Every hour is either building you or weakening you. Imagine spending the next 5 years deeply practicing communication, fitness, business, editing, music, coding, writing, or public speaking. Do you understand how dangerous you would become? Most people never experience their real potential because they never stay focused long enough. They quit before transformation fully appears. They abandon the process during the invisible stage, and years later they convince themselves they were not talented. But the truth is, they simply stopped too early. So here's the truth. You probably do not need perfect genetics. You probably do not need perfect luck. You probably do not need constant motivation. You need focused repetitions. You need consistency long enough for the compound effect to appear. Because the next 5 years are going to pass anyway. The real question is, what are you doing with your hours? Are they being invested into distraction or into building the future version of yourself? Because your life is quietly shaped by what you repeatedly do every single day. And that means your future is not built in giant dramatic moments.